What's going on, everybody? It's your boy BlkStorm with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the game that's been sweeping through media one way or another, Cyberpunk 2077. So without any further delays, let's get into the video. Alright, so welcome back. Now, originally I was gonna drop this video next week, but while I was on the phone with my uncle and I was telling him what I thought about the game, he responded by telling me that the review I gave it was really harsh and that I should make a video about it. And then I was kind of laying in my bed for a little bit and thinking about video ideas and what gameplay I should record, and I kind of thought to myself, like, maybe he was right. Maybe my review was a little bit harsh. So I wanted to do something a little bit different about a review. I wanted to give this two separate review ratings. One based off of all the hype that the game got, which I gave it a 2. And then the second review number being based off of if I was a guy who was uninvested, didn't really care that much. I just wanted a brand new game, something that I could play around the holidays, and I gave it about a 6.5 to a 7. Now, I did this by focusing on 4 key parts, or for me, what are key parts in the game. So the first one being transportation or maneuverability around the map. The second one is story options and consequences. The third one being side quest options. And the fourth one being combat. Now, I decided to focus on all these points, and I did put them in a particular order because that's what I particularly see as being important. Going from 1 being least important to 4 being most important. Now, with that being said, this is all just purely based off of me and my own personal opinion. Obviously, not everyone's going to have the same opinion as me. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and move straight into the first thing on this list, which is transportation and maneuverability. Alright, so driving in this game is not what I would consider the best by any sense of the means. The car literally feels like it's glued to the road. There are definitely times where I'll try to make like a sharp turn because I'm about to miss where the GPS in the game is taking me, and I'll overshoot it by a lot even though I'm braking and smash into a wall. Now, it could just be a level of realism that they put into the game because, I mean, you can't hit a turn on a dime with any vehicle. That's just not physically possible. That could be the case, but in terms of gameplay wise, there are definitely games that have smoother driving mechanics. For instance, GTA, which I would argue is a bit too smooth because you can flip your car fairly easy in that game, versus Cyberpunk, where I have yet to flip my car once. But that whole point aside, GTA, even the Far Cry series, it has a fairly smoother driving mechanic, at least the way that it feels. Like, if you ever stepped on the gas pedal of your car or any car and felt like something was pushing back as you were driving, like, that's kind of what it feels like. I'll hit the acceleration button and it just feels like something is pushing back against me in the game. So, and I could do a side-by-side comparison of this, actually of any of the aspects that I go over in this video. I can definitely do a side-by-side comparison. If that's something you guys would like to see, just drop that in the comments and I'll definitely make a video on that. I have all the games that I'll compare Cyberpunk to. I definitely have all of them. But in terms of the driving, it's not that serious. That's why I definitely put it at the bottom. I don't really care for driving that much in a game. I just like for everything to be smooth flowing. Obviously, if I wanted to play a game that involved a lot of driving or racing, I'd play like Forza or Need for Speed, but that's obviously not what I'm here for. Plus, the game has a fast travel system that's unlike any other. Like, you don't actually have to travel around and discover fast travel locations or discover new areas to fast travel there. It's like the whole map is accessible to you from the start, and certain areas might be under lockdown. It might be recommended that you don't go to certain areas, but you still have access to them whenever the need arises. There are fast travel locations all around the city that all you have to do is walk up to. So in reality, you don't really need to drive. You could just take one of the many fast travel location points and it'll pop you out basically as close as you would probably need to get to your next destination. But I still felt like this was something that I should talk about just a little bit because it is a part of the game, and it's a part of the game that I think could be done better, so it did affect my overall review of the game in the end. Now on to the second thing on this list, which is story options and consequences. Now, the story is important. Obviously, it's important in any game that you're making. You want your story to be good. However, I will say that options and consequences, depending on the type of game you have, don't really matter. But in Cyberpunk, in this case, it really does matter because the very first option that they give you is to choose your character's background, whether you come from the corporate world, whether you're a nomad, or whether you're a street kid. Obviously, that's up to you and what you'd like to see out of your story. So you get to pick one of these options. Now, for my first time through, I did the corporate world, and for the sake of making this video, I went back and started over from the other two backgrounds just because A, I obviously want to know what I was talking about for this video, and B, it really doesn't take that long to get where you want to get to or get back to where you were in the game because the main storyline isn't that long. Now, what I did notice is you have obviously varying dialogue options depending on your background, which is cool. I love that aspect of the game. I think it's amazing. However, the dialogue options have very little, if any. In fact, I'd say that they have zero consequences to the overall story. And the reason I say this is because when you get to a point that you're talking to somebody and your dialogue options matter, right? Each dialogue option that matters or that is used to progress the story is highlighted in gold text. Whereas other dialogue that is just used for exposition just so you can learn things is highlighted in blue text. There are times where your backstory's dialogue option is highlighted in blue. So obviously it's just for exposition, but it doesn't give very much. And even the options that are highlighted in gold, when you click on it, eventually you get back full circle to that same option. That option that you chose is now faded out, and you can click on the top option as well and progress through the story that way. When you finally reach the full end of the conversation, the game will prompt you to get up and leave from wherever you are. Now, why do I have an issue with this? Because I feel like if you're gonna have a system implemented that the different backgrounds dictate your dialogue options, I feel like it should have some consequence to the story. Like, I shouldn't be able to walk up to somebody with a street kid background and walk up to somebody in, let's say it would be optimal to have a corporate background with them. I shouldn't be able to get a similar or same outcome, but you can. And that, for me, I feel like is, I feel like that's a missed opportunity on their part. A good example of this would be like if you've ever played Skyrim, there are countless people that you talk to that basically give you a choice. You can pick option A, B, or C. Whichever option you pick, you're stuck with that outcome for that quest. Whether it's the main quest line, whether it's, a side quest line, whatever the case may be, you're stuck with that option. I feel like in Cyberpunk, you're not really stuck with any option other than progressing through to the final mission. And I guess it kind of works, But just for me being the person I am, and I love RPGs and I love consequences, I think that when you add consequences to the game, it adds that realism that lets you get invested in the game. So that's definitely something that I would like to see. If it happens in a DLC, that's great, but I think that they definitely missed out on that opportunity for base game. For the next part, I want to talk real quick about the side quest. Now, I'm not really going to spend that much time talking about these because it's actually probably one of the best parts, or one of the parts that I had the most fun with throughout the game. There's definitely more than enough side quests to just sit around and get lost in doing for anywhere from 40 minutes to, like, almost 2 hours. The quests range from literally transporting things from one side of the city to another. There are quests where they're basically hit jobs where you have to find somebody and kill them, or track them down and kill them. There are jobs where you're literally just going around the city looking for different images painted on walls. I think there's one side quest given to you by a lady where you're literally just going around and trying to knock out people who have this, psychological disease caused by the cybernetics in their body. And then there's even side quests where all you do is just sit there and listen to somebody talk and have a dialogue session, and the dialogue pulls from the main storyline. So I definitely have enjoyed playing the side quests and going around the city and discovering things. Also, if you look on your map, it'll tell you, like, sometimes the side quests will be like, hey, there's some crime over here, you should probably go and do something about it. And it'll be like one of the police based side quests, or it'll just be something where it's just a random exclamation mark on the map, and it'll say who knows what you find. So obviously you need to go check it out. But one thing that I do love that I wish a lot of other games would do with their side quests, the game will tell you how strong, or not necessarily how strong, but like the danger level. And I like that. It'll tell you whether it's moderate or whether it's high or very high. I think that's something that a lot of games should do, because a lot of RPGs have that knack of just, you can go and start any side quest, and then after you start it, you get to a part and you're like, oh shit, I can't beat this guy. So then you have to kind of backpedal your way out of it. So I kind of like that they actually have that aspect in. But as far as as a whole, the side quest is probably one of the, if not the single part of the game that I like the most. Last on my list was the combat system, which I did enjoy playing. It reminded me of games like Fallout or Far Cry. It wasn't like a huge jump to play this like when I went from Skyrim or Dragon's Dogma all the way to Dark Souls. It wasn't that big of a jump in terms of how to master the combat experience. And obviously doing things like playing around with your skill tree, upgrading your weapons, buying new weapons, testing things out, they obviously help. But one of my main problems is I think that early game, it's not very forgiving to players. And I say this in a sense of, like, I was playing an early game, I noticed that I can run up to somebody, pop them in the head with a shotgun, and it's powerful enough to blow them back, maybe knock them around to a wall or something, whatever the case may be, and they just get up, shake it off, and there's nothing special to it, nothing in particular happened. So for me, I feel like early game, the damage that you do just isn't enough. It's a little bit too tedious. Now, obviously, as the game progresses, should the amount of damage you do be decreased? Yes, because it should basically be pushing you to upgrade your character, change out your, change stuff in your skill tree, upgrade different weapons, try different weapons, master a specific build. That's what this game is about. You're supposed to have a build for your character, what type of playstyle suits you best. However, I do think that early game, that's something that you should be able to test out without having too much penalties in terms of burning through all your ammo and having to go spend a bunch of credits to go, either restock ammo or restock your weapons. I did test this out though. I do play on a higher level or a higher difficulty than I think most people who would just pick up a game and be like, oh, I just want to play Cyberpunk because it's fun. They probably put it on normal or easy, whereas I, just for the sake of the challenge, I put it on the hardest difficulty I can find in the game. So I did play with my difficulty sliders, and I noticed that the amount of damage I do, or my damage output, is around the same. Now there's probably a specific number that actually tells what or how much damage I'm doing, so it's definitely probably not the same, but it's the fact that either way, if I point blank them with a shotgun, they're not dying. And in my opinion, early game, that's something that should be happening. I should be able to cakewalk through the first bits and pieces of a game. It shouldn't be like an actual struggle of some kind, or it shouldn't be like, oh hey, I just fully unloaded all my ammunition and all you guys are still alive. That's not how I think the game should. I don't think any game really should go that way. But it's just something that I believe. Other people might think differently. Other people might think that the damage output and everything is the way it should be. There are different ideals for different people. That's just personally from other games that I have played. That's just the way that I feel. Alright everyone, that's all I had on my list for my Cyberpunk 2077 review. Now obviously everything in this video was catered to me and how I personally felt while playing this game. I am not by any means saying not to go out and buy this game. I did have my talking points about what I liked and disliked about the game, but obviously none of it was a deal breaker because I still bought the game and I still enjoy it. Now with that being said, I would like to hear what you guys have to say in the comments, whether you got it or didn't get it, if you plan to get it, and if you think I was a little harsh with my rating. And I'll see you next time.